Evening, everyone.
Hey everyone, how are you all tonight? I hope that you're all comfy, you've got something nice and warm to drink, and that you are ready for about an hour and a bit. I know this is all about sleep, so tonight's webinar is going to be unpacking why sleep is so important on your wellness or weight loss journey, and not even necessarily about that, but also about just to help with our mental state of mind, our moods and our emotions, hormone regulation. There's so much to unpack, and I know that we have a really incredible person who we have had so many times on pretty much every one of our webinars, bar one or two, and I think she was, I don't know, what was she doing? Getting engaged or something, something like that, something big. Otherwise, Carly's been on almost all of our webinars, and this is a topic that I think she knows a lot about, as something I would like to talk about. Steph wants to talk a bit from his own personal experience, how we got our sleep right, how we got our family sleep right. And for me, as a wellness expert who's been in the game a long time, this is something that I've always focused on with my clients' wellness journeys. Even, 15 years ago, when it wasn't as in or trendy to be so focused on sleep and to get those 8 hours, it's definitely becoming more of a thing now where people are respecting their sleep. There's a thing called sleep hygiene. Like, what on earth is that? And I'm going to speak to you today and actually show you. I actually went into my cupboard and I said to Steph, I'm not going to do any slides. I think people would rather see me touching and feeling the products that I love in my home, things that have changed my world. So I've actually got them all behind me. I was like the bag lady coming up here to the gym tonight, full of accessories, and I've laid them out here because I want to show you, instead of like doing a PowerPoint presentation, let me rather show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to wear them, touch them, feel them, and show you. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so for me, I think we've all been in a situation where we've been so dog tired that you couldn't care about anything. You don't even care that you're not exercising for days or weeks on end. You're exhausted to the bone. And when you're tired, your moods and your emotions go through the roof. And Carly will unpack that from a hormonal point of view. But I think we've all experienced that. I mean, most of us have been new moms at some point, and that's PTSD. Throw in some sleep, like insomnia and all kinds of like, what do we call it? Deprivation, that's the word. And you have a recipe for disaster. So it doesn't help with moods, emotions. We get really tearful. We eat all the wrong things because hormonally we want to, our like appetites are increased. Our hormones are doing a wobbly, and on a hormonal level, we don't even have a choice. Like, we're eating the wrong stuff. We need to get instant energy. We're relying on things like caffeine, too much sugar to get through the day, and motivation goes out the window. So you couldn't care less about exercise if you are tired, let alone eating healthy, right? And making good, healthy choices when all you want to do is drink coffee. And then you want a high carb breakfast or fatty, greasy breakfast. And then you want chocolates throughout the day. Any pick-me-ups, like wine gums or whatever you can get your hands on just to make you feel better, even if it's just for that moment or that hour. You just got to get through that next hour. And the cycle begins, And it's, for me, the thing we kind of need to start with. So we are recording another podcast tomorrow. It was actually meant to be today, but this guy didn't have the capacity to do it because he was doing a lot of other things that are really important. So we're doing it tomorrow. And that episode is actually all around motivation, and it's around cultivating joy in your life, and how to do that. So for me, that is actually really number one. That's where your wholeness and wellness journey starts. And I can't wait to talk about that for 90 minutes or so tomorrow. And then the next one is sleep. Okay, so sleep is critical. So what's happened to you this week? Because I've been going down the stairs a little later than Steph, actually, and seeing my husband all dressed and on the rebounder.
I actually have not discussed this with you.
He hasn't. He just said to me, I'm getting up early, I'm gonna rebound.
So wait, let me tell the story. So look,
it was 5. He's off the rebounder. Okay. And I'm like, where is my husband? Where have you put him? This is not a morning person. Like, what? I am. Well,
I'm discovering that. But let me jump in. First of all, Lisa's just jumping straight into it. I just want to thank a couple of things and set the context. First of all, thank you to
anyone.
I want to thank Biogen.
Okay, Biogen.
Thank Biogen for this webinar and making this possible. That's first. For those of you that joined the first time, and if you listening to this for the first time post the recording, this is live right now. You know, we always preface it by explaining to everyone that there's an informality here that we do this with. And the reason we're doing it is because when we went to formal studio with plants and props, everyone said, stop that. That's not who you guys are. That's what we'll get from another corporate. We want you to stay the way you are. And so we do this from our home. We're sitting in Lisa's gym, and we're streaming this live. And what we're trying to do is share expertise from Lisa's perspective and expertise from folks like Carly. So today we didn't want to invite a special guest. Carly is part of the team, right? So we decided tonight, no special guests, because the last podcast that we did have a special guest, and the one before, and most of the feedback that I got was, can you guys have less of these special guests, and can we hear more from you and Carly, i.e. Lisa and Carly? So that's what we're doing tonight. So it's just the two of them, and they're riffing, and it's informal, and it is not something that is well structured, but the key thing is it's authentic, it's real, and it's based upon two people tonight that have extreme amounts of experience in this particular area. Sleep is something that I've heard Lisa say this all the time. I've heard Carly say it all the time. Is no matter what your plans are from a health and transformation perspective, if you don't fix your sleep, you know, weight loss through to whatever your goal may be from a wellness and a wholeness perspective breaks. The foundation to everything about who you are is sleep. There's a great individual that we've reached out, and we may have him on our podcast, and that's Matthew Walker. He talks about sleep. He's written quite a few books, and he's like the guru on books, you know, why we sleep. He's wrote, they're seeing it back to front. But the guy is Matthew Walker. Go online on other, like he's always on podcasts, but he's incredible. He speaks very well. His books are insane. And some of his podcasts that I've listened to have really like shocked me from a sleep perspective. But let me just talk about my story for a second. The reason I made a change, I haven't actually talked to you about this. I just suddenly did it. I read some things, specifically the CNN article in the health section that came out, I think it was last week or earlier in the week or the weekend. And it spoke about the 8 things that you can do to add 24 more years to your life. And the science behind it. So how can you add 24 more qualitative years? Not just longevity, but like not lifespan, but health span. And number 1 is exercise, but in the top 5 to 7, sleep. And they talk about opioid addiction in there, which is not really relevant to us as South Africans. The book is called, the name of the book is Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. I'll put it in the chat now when Lisa's talking. And the other one is Sleep Revolution, which I'll also share.
Yeah, this is Ariana.
Yeah, so those 2 books, I'll share it in the chat now and a link through to it. But that article really shook me, because that article, we utilizing the links in there and the scientific research to generate some mailers associated with it. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do is actually subscribe to our mailer list, because our mailer listing has really changed over the last few months. We're focusing there on real qualitative advisory orientated content versus sales content. So please sign up to our mailer through the website. I think you're going to get a lot of this. And what we're doing is we're utilizing this particular article and the links and the scientific stuff that's connected to it to talk about kind of advice. And sleep was something that stared back at me. Now, I've had erratic sleep patterns, and I've tried everything. And what I've noticed over the last little while, there may be in the media, some of you may have noticed that I've joined a couple more boards and I'm doing some more things. And I've realized that if I don't structure my life better, there is no way that I can fit exercise into my life. And if I can't fit exercise into my life, I can't sleep properly. I can't sleep properly. And if I can't sleep properly, then everything sort of like everything becomes worse and everything is intense and everything is, and by default, I am an intense human being. So if I lack sleep, then everything kind of goes through the roof, and Lisa will testify to that. So what I've decided is, and
you don't have outlets. If you don't exercise, if you don't sleep, you don't have energy. If you don't have energy, you won't exercise. It's a vicious cycle. And then you have no outlet, and then your stress goes through the roof, and then you can't sleep. So it's like, yeah. So let me tell you what I've done. Yeah.
So I read this article and I kind of really unpacked the sleep aspect of it, and it shocked me. And I took a look at what people operate like when they don't sleep versus people that sleep, and the brain scans, etc. And it really, really shocked me, the scientific research. So what I decided, here's the life hack I gave myself. First of all, I'm an extremely busy executive. I mean, I get pulled into meetings, I get pulled into advisory councils with CEOs, etc. And those are very in-depth cerebral engagements. So I need to be the top of my game. And fitness doesn't help me. I can be fit. I am fit. I can outrun Lisa. I can run further than I can do. So I can't do anything on the rebound that she does. I can't outbounce you. But fitness is not the issue. The issue is stamina. It's endurance. To make it through a day with a without a fluctuating personality, without having to breathe deep and to force myself to really get my happy lenses on.
Description, a fluctuating personality.
Yeah, you get a viciously fluctuating personality. That's what you get, and you get out of control, and you can embarrass yourself, or you can approach a situation and post a situation. You think to yourself, "Man, I could have just handled that better." And when I started analyzing my behavior from that perspective, and I realized that the core fundamental principle in my life wasn't food. I mean, I think we have a chef and we eat the best food, and I eat very well. Carly is actually taking a look at some of the aspects of my heart and cholesterol, and she's picked up some things in my DNA. So I'm doing things relative to my DNA. I'm working out, but the one thing that's broken in my life is sleep. And I've realized that it breaks everything else. It breaks my immunity, it breaks my mood, it breaks my enthusiasm, motivation.
Yeah.
And it's almost to a point where, like, I asked myself a couple of times, I'll be brutally honest, like, do I suffer from depression? Because I always hear people talk about depression and happy pills, and do they take, and I thought to myself, maybe I need to go on antidepressants for a while, just to kind of help me get through the day without this going on. And then something hit me when I read all these articles. I actually suffer from sleep deprivation. And it's not sleep deprivation in the sense that I don't get enough hours of sleep. I think what I've noticed with your sleep patterns is your discipline. And you have incredible discipline with your sleep. There's a routine that you follow, there's a way that you do it. And your sleep discipline gives you the ability to kind of clock in a certain time of the day, and you kind of make because you do an incredible amount in a day too. I mean, but you do it in a way with people, and you have to be at the top of your game. You've got to be happy, and you've always got to be a positive disposition. You can't be negative, etc. So you are forced in that situation. So I kind of analyzed you. I read up, and I decided 48 hours ago, or maybe 72 hours ago.
The CNN article, or
no, it's combinatorial.
Every year, Steph says to me, "This year, my babe, I'm gonna get up when you get
so
up."
You know what? I didn't want to say
this is
it.
like for 8 years.
No, so this is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to make the change verbally. I wanted to make the change internally. I just wanted to tell myself, you need to do this for you. You're not going to say it out loud, because when you say it out loud, then it's Lisa knows.
Not everybody on the call knows, but yes.
Yeah, but it's not.
Better stick to it.
Better stick to it now. But the thing, what I've decided is I go to bed now between 9 and 10 every night, and I wake up at 5 a.m. That's the routine. No matter what, no matter how much I've got to read, no matter how many board packs I've got to get through, no matter what, between 9 and 10, my lights go off, right? So I switch off. And 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. It takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to get on a rebounder, to get a bounty workout going on the laptop or the iPad. And then I'm working out.
Was 5, and I went like this. And it felt like puffy. So I was like, is it him? And it was just a whole lot of pillows. I think you were trying to trick me. But I was like feeling for him, and I was like, wow, I'm impressed. This is like 2 days in a row. So
and I feel great.
To it, okay?
No, but can I tell you something? I always thought I wasn't a morning person. And you're not a morning person if your sleep routine. You go to bed late.
No one's a morning person.
No one's a morning. Yes. So this notion of circadian rhythms is very real. I believe that. My DNA does say that I can train morning anytime during the day. So my circadian rhythm, as far as my fitness is concerned, on a genetic basis, my DNA says I can go morning, middle of the day, or night. So I don't have an issue with that. Now, if you do your DNA, which I suggest all of you do, then you kind of get more feedback associated with it. So I've discovered.
Interesting about me. So I do keep interrupting you, but we are bantering. I'm actually a more of a night person according to my DNA. How crazy is that? So because I've been waking up at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., somewhere around there, for the last 20-something years, okay, since I was 18 years old, my body now knows that. So now I'm in this rhythm of going to bed early, waking up early, going to bed early, waking up early. But I do have to wake up with an alarm. I'm not like my amazing dad who goes to bed at 8:30 every night. And at 5 o'clock, he's up with the birds, and he never sets an alarm. Like, that would be my dream. But after doing my DNA, I realized that actually 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. is my sweet spot. Because when we do go on holiday and I finally do turn my alarm off every now and again, I kind of go to bed at around 11. That feels normal, and wake up at 7 and I feel refreshed. But I've been forcing myself to go to bed early for so long that I'm exhausted come 9 o'clock at night. I can't keep my eyes open. I can't even watch a whole episode of something, and I'm fast asleep. And we'll talk about that just now, by the way, about TV time before bed. And then I get up early. I've had my sleep by that time. But I'm so particular about the hours of sleep that if tonight, for instance, we finish a little bit later, I only get to bed at 10, I will adjust my Friday morning so that I still get my quota of time. I will actually not train in the morning, I'll train later, or I'll move my morning meeting, or I will do something to make sure that I still get my 7.5 hours sleep minimum. Like, it's that important to me. I won't just say, oh, well, then I won't get enough sleep tonight. No, I will get enough sleep tonight. I will make a plan. And I actually suffered quite a lot when we were in Zanzibar on the vacation, because everyone had such different sleep rhythms, and a lot of, like, we were going to bed much later, but my alarm was still going off at 5:30 because I have a lot to do before I take a 7 a.m. class. There's a lot of playlists, I have to organize things, social media. So I have emails to do and all of that. So I'm getting up at 5:30, but I was going to bed most nights at 11 because dinner was finishing late. We were chatting, we were having a great time. And I look at my watch and I'm like, oh my word. Now I can do that for one night. But if I do that for 7 days in a row, I'm broken. So I came back from Zanzibar happy, so happy, but broken, like literally shattered. Everyone else was rested mostly, but I was like broken.
Can we get back to me?
Okay,
yeah.
Can get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have to move on to some science soon. Okay.
Okay.
Just how you feel.
Okay, so let me some hacks that I share. Number one is hacks that work for me. Try and get dinner done by 6 p.m. I find when I eat after 6 p.m. and I try to stick to this routine in the last couple of days, it's difficult. I mean, your body seems to, and probably Carly can talk about this a little bit, and you can talk about this a little bit. As food, when you are eating it, it's clear. It's clear that I can have a big breakfast, I can have a big lunch, but I need to have an early dinner. And I find like when I have an early dinner, then sleep's easier.
But okay, I have to interrupt you there.
Okay.
Okay. It's not always like the time that you eat, though. That is important, that you try and finish your meal 3 hours before you go to bed. So depending on what time you go to bed, you need to finish your food. But if you're not in a situation to do that, like you might exercise at night from 5 to 6, you only get home 6:45, kids, everything. So you are eating dinner late. What you eat matters. And that's where Carly will come in. But it's really important to know that if you can't get your dinner done by 6 or 6:30, and you can only eat at 7:30, or even later, what you eat at night really does matter.
That's true.
So I don't want to set people up for failure saying, you got to eat by 6. Some people don't even get home at 6. So then what? They failed before they started.
Right.
Okay,
and I think there's a lot of questions popping up about like people not being, like, falling asleep. And what Lisa's going to show you guys, there's lots of sleep aids that she utilizes, and she's brought up like half the bedroom up here. So she's going to show you guys what she was going to put it in a slideshow. We had pictures, and I said, well, she said to me, I'm just going to show, because this is ridiculous that we put it in slides. People are tired of a slideshow. She's actually going to show us sleep aids. And I think a big one for me is exactly what they're saying too on this thing. And I think you and Carly need to address this, is how do you actually fall asleep effectively, quickly, qualitatively? Because I'm now falling asleep very quickly, but one of the things that I do, which is not advisable, and I've heard that I shouldn't do this, I put an AirPod in my ear and I will play a podcast of, like, I listen to very like hectic, heavy podcasts, and I will listen to that. But also you get sleep apps that have lots of like, not white noise, they have white noise, they have meditation, they've got like a rainy, like the one that I like is the rain on a roof thing. And that sometimes helps, and it calms your mind. I find my mind is also in hyper acceleration mode when I go to bed, and because I read a lot before I go to bed. I read 4 or 5 hours a day. So I read, and I don't read fiction. I read stuff that I need to do when I speak, etc., and I consult. So when I go to bed, my brain's overloaded on that information, and to detach myself from that, there are certain podcasts that I will listen to that I know within 10 minutes of that podcast, listening to that podcast, laying down, I'm out.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen to our podcast, that it's so boring that after 10 minutes it puts our clients to sleep.
No, but I mean, if you're listening to like a political or geopolitical podcast.
But you know what? Like, I don't really agree with that, because that is, you're like overstimulating your mind before you go to bed. And you're packing it full of things that you must remember. You must make little notes, like sticky notes. And are you're thinking about things. Like, I think that you should watch Netflix or something to numb your brain before you go to bed. Like, it's a time of like switching your brain off. You've had a crazy day. Rather watch a little bit of something, fall asleep earlier, and get up earlier, and then that's when you do your hour of reading or whatever. When you're fresh, you've got the whole day to assimilate those facts and that information, make your notes, your alerts, and you're not going to bed with all these thoughts processing in your brain. You wake up, you read, and let the whole day process that information. I think that's a much better way of doing it.
I think it's easier for some than it is for others. I think it's your profession. I think it's where your mental state is at. I think if you're suffering from some anxiety, from not just suffering from anxiety, but you've actually got anxiety relative to a deadline, relative to something that you needed to do, something that you just didn't complete, and now you're laying in bed, I think your mind starts spinning. And it's not that simple. And so it is a combination. I will say that all of these things, and I am just from the outside in, I'm not a wellness expert in any way or form. I just live with the wellness expert and I see it living in front of me. I think it is routine. I do think it's a combination of a lot of factors. It is your mental state of mind. It is your physical fitness during the day. It is your sleep routine and hygiene and discipline. It is all of those things combined. And it's not, everyone looks, and I find I was looking for a long time for that switch, that if I do this, if I drink this. And one of the things that I fear is sleeping pills. I fear them. I fear pills. And I know people that when they aren't sleeping pills, they can do it. Without sleeping pills, they just cannot fall asleep. So they turn to drugs to get themselves to sleep quickly. And I mean, I'd love for either Carly or yourself to actually touch on that, because a lot of people default to that. And I can understand why they're defaulting to that. That is not the best way to do it. But the problem is, how do you get this problem fixed? And I mean, is the answer then combinatorial?
Well, I
is
think
it
people
doing all
a
of
lot of the things that they're doing are completely wrong, and they are going to affect their capability of falling asleep, or the fact that they might fall asleep because they've had a few glasses of red wine. So they're like, oh, I fall asleep so well. But then what they don't realize is that they're getting that 2 a.m. wake up. And Carly can unpack why you wake up when you drink, fall asleep nicely, wake up in the middle of the night. It totally affects your whole sleep pattern and your rhythm. So it's something that really helps me, and now I'm getting into my hacks a little bit, but I write things down. Like if I don't have a notepad and like a list of things, and at the end of every day, before I even say, okay, enough for today, I've done enough work today, you know, it has to wait till tomorrow. I cross everything off, and everything that wasn't touched on today. And I have a very, very specific method that I do my to-do list, like important things at the top, urgent things. And I have this method. I try and start my day with a lot of things that are easy to tick off, because there's nothing nicer than going tick, 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 you know? So I try to do that at first, and then I get stuck into the heavy stuff that's like really, really important next, you know? Anyway, I create a list, and I have that list with me all the time. It's like my little notepad, it's my pen, and I try and make sure that before I go to bed, everything that I'm thinking about, my to-dos, my thoughts, my concerns, anything that's going on in this crazy mind that never seems to sleep, is written down, because that is the only way I can fall asleep. If it hasn't been written down and I'm trying to sleep, but I'm thinking, oh, I need to do this, I must phone this person in the morning, there's no way I'm going to fall asleep, because my subconscious the whole time saying, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. How can you sleep like that? So just have a method, whether you use your notes on your phone or whether you've got a notepad next to your bed, carry it with you and have your method of making your to-do list and notes, taking those thoughts and vomiting them out on a page, so that you can take it out of your brain and you can just say, it's on my notepad, I'll deal with it in the morning. Like there's nothing I can do about it now. I can't send the person a message now. I can't phone them now. My body needs to sleep. I honor my body and respect my body. Right now, it's time for sleep. So I can wake up tomorrow a better human.
So this is all good, right? But and I'll just say, I'm going to speak for the layman out there. And this, I hope Carly can chime in on this later too. A lot of people struggle with very real problems, and sometimes those very real problems will affect sleep. So this is not a perfect science. There are times when your sleep patterns will be broken for whatever reasons. You stayed out till late. It's so your social life. Your child is sick, and those things are very real. But I also know the mental side to this. And I remember our therapist talking to Hanli, and if you're not in the right frame of mind, that can be quite tough. If you're in a situation, you don't know if your job's going to be there on Friday because of the economic situation that we find ourselves in right now. You don't know the challenge or the deadline that you've been given, if you'll be able to make that deadline. And there's so much riding on that. You're an entrepreneur, or your husband's dealing with something, or your relationship with stuff.
Can I put that on my podcast tomorrow, rather? Because that is a whole nother subject. I
know, but the point is that is a very, I don't think you'll be able to. Yeah, so I do want to encourage you all to listen to the podcast tomorrow, because when it comes to cultivating joy, cultivating calmness, and I don't want you to unpack it yet at all. I think on the podcast you'll do that. But the point is, there is things that you can do from a dietetics perspective. There's things that you can do from a lifestyle and habitual perspective, routine perspective. I mean, you can really tick all the boxes, but then
also physiological things that you must not do.
But then there's the psychological aspect of things, and that's where we are not experts, and that's a very real thing. And go get help. Go get help. I spoke, and the reason I speak about this is because we're doing a very close partnership with Panda, And Panda is the mental health app that launched, and we had them on one of our podcasts many moons ago. And Alon and I had a long discussion today because there's some more things that we'll be doing with them. We're actually going to pop up in the app as a rewards partner, and we're going to get like the mental side of things coming more and more closer to the business, because we're feeling more and more of that as challenges that our client base is having. And we spoke about this. How many people are challenged with mental illness and circumstantial illnesses, stresses that, medicines and other things can't solve? But I would suggest this, this is where friends are so important. This is where a therapist, your tribe, or your therapist, go sit down, talk things through. If you're spiritual, this is where prayer helps a lot. Meditation helps a lot, where you declare it out into the universe and you speak it out. It's scientifically proven that when you do that and you declare it out, it takes a huge weight off your shoulders. We can't address that in this webinar. We'll address it slightly in the podcast tomorrow. But I want to encourage you to go, that psychological angle to this is something that, go research that, find a psychological expert, go into the Panda app and gain access from that perspective, because the mental aspect of this is so important. The psychological aspect of this is so important. And I think it's something that we jump through we just think it's easy and people can deal with it.
Something that a lot of people do overlook as well is the power of exercise to reduce one's adrenal states and like adrenaline levels and cortisol levels and restlessness and anxiety and stress. And it's really it's underplayed. Like, it really needs to be understood better, that if you are somebody that suffers from restlessness and stress and anxiety and all of those things, you should be exercising. It's a non-negotiable. Like, for me, if it doesn't go out, it goes in. And I say this all the time, like, where does that nervous energy go if it doesn't get expended? It goes back in and creates chaos in your body with your hormones, your mood, your cells, your health, your immune system. You have to let it out. And so many of our clients have said to us, since I've started rebounding, I'm in a much better mood. I'm in a much better person. My marriage has changed. I have a better relationship with my son. I get more done. I'm happier. I'm more productive.
My sleep's better.
Got me through the worst 2 years or 3 years of my life. I sleep better. So don't underestimate the power of exercise. And if I can challenge every single one on this webinar tonight to just move every single day for the next 30 days. Okay, if it's on a rebounder, I'm going to be happy because I know you're doing the right thing. But if it's walking, if it's going to the gym, if it's doing a combination of all things, if you can move for a minimum of 30 minutes a day, and that means getting to bed earlier, getting up a little earlier, forgoing some TV time or some other habits that aren't serving you, and making the time to do 30 minutes every day for the next 30 days, and then report back to me. Send me a DM, okay? Tell me how you're feeling after moving every day consistently for 30 consecutive days. It will change your perspective. It will change your mood and emotions. No one goes into a session feeling horrible and comes out feeling worse. You come out feeling better. I can do this. I feel more positive. Why was I so stressed when I went in? You have a different perspective when you come out. You literally feel like a new human. And that is not something that you did. That is something your body did. That's the happy hormones and serotonin being like excreted into your veins. You will feel happier afterwards. So yes, it is really important from a sleep perspective that you exercise every day to reduce cortisol and adrenaline and bring your heart rate down. You calm. It's going to be impossible to fall asleep if you wound up. It's impossible. But if you've had a good workout that day, you've got your sweat on, you got rid of any like extra adrenaline, you're going to find it a lot easier to fall asleep. But with that also comes discipline. How badly do you want it? Because we hear all the excuses all day long about why I can't do this, why I can't do that. And it's enough.
And I'll just say this, and this is where I'm going to chime up because I've said too much in this podcast already. The webinar already. But one of the things that I've realized is how convenient, and I know this may sound biased, and it probably is completely biased, but I'm going to say it anyway. How convenient rebounding has been relative to this decision that I've personally made. I mean, I would have loved to put bounty boots on to go out and run. If that was my modality, I would never be able to make this commitment because it's either too dark or too cold or unsafe, etc., etc. But be able to go downstairs the night before, have the rebounder there, the laptop's open. So all I need to do is go down, click the little space bar and start. That takes all the barriers to entry and the decision making away.
He his outfits in the next door room in the pajama lounge, which I've been doing for the last 8 years or 6 years since living here in this house in Joburg. I very selflessly take my things out of our bedroom and pop them into the pajama lounge. And I would have to change. Now Bethany doesn't live here, so I can do it in her room, thank goodness. I've moved my whole fitness closet to that side. It's amazing. But I would have to put everything in the pajama lounge, matching headbands, you know me, matching ring, matching everything. And every morning get up, quietly sneak it and go change there in the pajama lounge so that I wouldn't wake up Steph. Now I'm seeing him go out at night and I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, no, I'm just putting my clothes out. I'm like, you actually have been noticing all the things that I do in my 6 years here. But being organized is really important. So having the rebounder set up, having your workout downloaded, or if it is a home gym workout you're doing, know what you're doing the next day. Have a playlist organized, know what workout you're doing, make sure your equipment's ready, get your outfit ready for your workout, get your sweat towel, get your water bottle, fill it with like ice cold water. The next morning will be still nice and cold, 8 hours, 10 hours later. And all you really need to do is get your gear on and show up. And everything is done. You don't have to think, oh, what am I doing now? And oh, my tackies are wet. And, you know, no, you organize things. So now you get organized so that the morning comes and you're ready.
But one of the things I'll say, since I've done this, and I've read this, is one of the things that I read too. In fact, it was on Twitter. I read someone say this, that just the fact that you've got this routine going, it makes you feel like you're part of that 1% champion space. Like, you, that 1%, the 5 a.m. club. It makes you feel. So when I get done, I mean, literally now by 5:45, I'm done. Like, I've trained, I've showered, I'm ready to spend time with Bella as soon as she wakes up. You know, I've got time to spend with Lisa. I mean, there's a lot of things that suddenly fall into place because you've just opened up. You've given yourself another 2-3 hours in the day, pretty much. And your state of mind going into the day is completely different. You're refreshed, you're energized, you've woken up in a cool way. So for me, that's my hack. I go to bed between 9 and 10 now, and I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, and I'm rebounding. And again, I'll say it, rebounding, I couldn't have done with another modality. To go downstairs and do aerobics on a hard floor, nah. But to jump on a trampoline in a semi-sleepy state as you're warming up, it's really nice.
Wakes you up very fast.
Yeah, but it's really, really nice.
Wake up or fall off.
Okay, so that's my 2 cents. That's what I've been experiencing with sleep. And I know you guys have got a ton of stuff. So I'm going to step away. Cool. But I'm going to put some stuff. I'll be in the chat. And I'm going to put some links and stuff to the books that we mentioned here, etc. And again, so the floor's yours.
Cool. Well, I actually need to hand over to Carly at this
point. Is Carly going to go first?
I want Carly to unpack why sleep is so important for one's health. With regards to what foods to eat and not eat before you go to bed to better ensure a good night's sleep, as well as the part that sleep plays in overall immunity, weight loss, weight gain. There's so much to talk about on the science side of things. So I think like she really needs to set the tone there, the do's and don'ts and whys and hows. And then I would like to talk about some of the, the hacks stuff, the tools that I've been using that help you get there quicker. Okay.
And by the way, Carly, I just want to tell you, I know that you've been waiting for bloods from me, and you know why I haven't done them? Because I knew I wasn't living the right way. So what I've done, I've decided I'm going to make this change. I'm going to do it for a month, and then I'm going to do bloods. Okay.
I'm waiting for those notifications to come into my Lancet app. I am patiently waiting.
The Smarties are completely gone. They've been gone for like a year now. The cheeses and stuff are gone. Pizzas are gone. Fried foods, everything that you said. But now, exactly, but it's back now. So yeah.
Okay. Anyway, over to you, Carly. Floor's yours.
Thanks, guys. And such interesting topics that you've already spoken about and touched on. I've been sitting making notes here on all the other things that I need to touch on that might not be in my presentation. But evening, everyone. I'm using PowerPoint because it helps me and it helps organize my thoughts and make sure that I speak about everything that I want to speak about. I'm organized like that, and it's the way my brain works. But hopefully you can benefit from it by taking screenshots or taking notes or whatever helps you remember some of the tips here. So sleep is definitely one of my favorite topics to talk about in practice. And you'll be thinking, you're a dietitian, why do you talk about sleep? And if you ask any of my patients who I see on a regular basis every month, every 2 weeks, I always ask them, how's your sleep been? How many hours? What has the quality been? What has your sleep score been? Because I know how much that's going to impact every single other aspect and element of their life. So it's so important for me to make sure that my patients are accurately monitoring and tracking their sleep and really trying to get that right. So I really believe that getting your sleep right and improving your sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your health, because it has such a domino effect on every other area of your life. It is so powerful to really get good sleep. It's important for the prevention of chronic disease, which we'll tap into in this presentation. It's important for overall weight management, for longevity, for living a better, fuller, happier quality of life, and just for overall happiness and well-being. It really is so important. And I'm so passionate about helping patients get sleep right. As Lisa and Steph mentioned earlier, you can see in some of the DNA reports, we do touch on circadian rhythms. So I know for myself, I'm also a night owl, and I'm prone to wanting to stay up later, to wanting to do work late at night. And when I was in varsity, that's really when my brain worked really, really well. So it's been hard for me to try and go to bed early, and I really have to be disciplined and diligent at making sure I'm in bed at a certain time, off my phone, falling asleep. All of those things are sometimes harder for night owls because it's not a natural part of our biological clock, but it's so important and it's so rewarding to get right. It makes me so happy when my clients say to me, their sleep is improved, they're feeling more refreshed, because I'm like, oh, yes, I know what that feels like, and I know how amazing it is to get your sleep right. So just looking at an overall really nice summary at what actually happens during your sleep. So number one, memories are consolidated and stored, which is incredibly important for learning and productivity, which we all need more of. It's important for concentration and paying attention. It's really crucial for muscle repair and recovery. So if you're training a lot and if you're exercising every day, if you're not sleeping properly, your exercise performance is going to be negatively impaired. Then we're looking at metabolism. Sleep and metabolism are hand in hand. You can't have a good metabolism without good sleep. It really is crucial. And then it's important for overall maintenance of good physical and mental health. So what I wanted to touch on are these different stages of sleep, which I find absolutely fascinating, because our watches all track sleep, but I feel like patients don't really know what they're looking for. Sometimes when I see a client for the first time, I say, okay, how's your sleep? What is your sleep score? Because I can see they're wearing a watch and they're like, what? I didn't even know my watch could do that. Or where do I look for that? Or what do I look for? So this is what's so important to understand, are these different phases. So the major phases of sleep that we get are light, deep or slow wave, and then REM or rapid eye movement. So that light sleep is essentially that initial phase of sleep. It's when you're just starting to relax, you're starting to switch off, your brain is starting to calm down, but we can be easily awoken from this state of sleep. It is important because it allows our body to transition between the other phases of sleep. And what's interesting is that we cycle between these different stages of sleep. So it's not light, deep, REM, awake, it fluctuates. And if you have a look at your watch, if you have one and you look at the graph that is shown, you'll see it goes through these phases. And the research shows that each of those cycles lasts about 90 to 120 minutes. And as the night goes on, the REM sleep periods become longer, and then the deep sleep starts to decrease. So from what I see in my own sleep patterns, is a little bit of light and then straight into deep sleep. And if I don't go to bed early enough, I'm missing out on that opportunity for deep sleep. And when we have a look at that deep or slow wave sleep and what actually happens in this type of sleep, it is essential and critical for physical restoration and growth. So especially children and teenagers who are still growing and developing, really important. This is when our energy is restored, our body batteries are charged up. This is where growth hormone is released. So this is an incredibly important hormone that helps us burn fat, and it helps with muscle mass development, so the development of lean muscle mass. So incredibly important for a healthy metabolism. It's important for helping to lower blood pressure. It increases blood flow throughout the body though, so that improves oxygen delivery to your muscles, which helps with muscle recovery. It's actually when your biotransformation or your detoxification process in your liver happens most efficiently too, is during sleep. And during this deep, slow wave sleep, it's when your immune system is repaired and improved. Unfortunately, deep sleep does decline with age. So we have to work harder as we get older to get that amount of deep sleep. It would be interesting. I don't have a child yet, but maybe Steph and Lisa would be interesting to track Bella's sleep and to see a child of that age, how much deep sleep are they getting relative to us as adults. And then REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. This is really interesting. We dream actually, and I didn't know this, but we dream throughout all of the different phases. But the types of dreams that we have in REM sleep tend to be quite dramatic and emotional and intense. So those are often the dreams that you tend to remember. So there's intense brain activity happening during REM, but your muscles are temporarily paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams, essentially. So that's really interesting. And the REM sleep is all about your brain health. So it's important for memory consolidation, for learning, for productivity, for emotional processing and regulation, for cognitive functioning. And we know that lack of sleep is so strongly linked to dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's really important for getting that debris and that the dead cells out of your brain during that REM sleep. So those are the phases, and it's so important to know what's going on during each of those phases and why we need to prioritize sleep so much. So what should we actually be aiming for with regards to sleep? So I've looked at a few different sleep tracking apps and a few different sources here to kind of consolidate what we should be aiming for. So the first thing is we should be aiming to fall asleep within 15 minutes. So tossing and turning and waking up and checking your time and up and down and all around for half an hour, that's not ideal. That's already problem number one. Okay, so we should be falling asleep within 15 minutes of actively closing your eyes and trying to fall asleep. We should be aiming for 7.5 to 9 hours of total sleep. Deep sleep should be 16 to 33% of total sleep. So depending on what your total sleep was. So at least between 1 to 2 hours, that deep sleep should be. I've seen some clients who get less than 10 minutes of deep sleep. That's how bad it is. So it really, really can be very, very low depending on several factors, which we'll touch on. And then that REM sleep, we're looking at 20 to 30% of your total sleep time. Having a low stress level, heart rate variability. So certain watches, I wear a Garmin, but it measures the stress levels. So you want that to be less than 15 on a Garmin. On some of the other watches, they might have different markers, but that's essentially assessing your heart rate variability. So the difference in time between beats in your heartbeat, we're wanting that to be as low as possible. And then fewer than 20 minutes of total awake time, and no more than one of those awake times being longer than 5 minutes. So you're not wanting to wake up for longer than 5 minutes throughout the night. So that's an ideal state of sleep. And I think it's so important, Lisa and Steph, how you were talking about different things earlier. And it's so important to understand that we're all different and we're all going to respond more effectively to certain strategies than others, or more positively to certain strategies than others. And I think what's important to understand is that there isn't one thing that we can do. Look at Lisa bouncing now in the background. There isn't one thing that we can do that's going to magically fix our sleep. Just like with weight loss, just like with health, there's never one thing. It really is such a huge variety of factors that we need to try and implement. So Steph, I know you were talking earlier and you were saying, I just need this one switch. I need one thing to do. There isn't one thing. It's a combination of so many complicated, nuanced factors, which it doesn't have to be scary. It just takes time and dedication to get into it. So when we have a look at how bad sleep or poor quality sleep in terms of quality or quantity actually impacts our health, what's interesting is that the World Sleep Society estimates that roughly 30% of adults worldwide struggle with insomnia. That's a huge number, 30%. So insomnia is defined as struggling to fall asleep or struggling to stay asleep, or both. And I know, because I see new people all day, every day, and I assess their lifestyles, I know how common this actually is. And I think it makes sense with how stressful the world is at the moment, but it's still so bad for our health. And when we summarize all of the negative factors that can occur with that poor sleep, I've summarized them here for you. So less than 7.5 hours of good quality sleep over time really can impact and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and insulin resistance. So there's been studies done that show that just with one night of bad sleep, just one night, your insulin sensitivity goes down. So what does that mean? It means that your body can't process carbohydrates as efficiently as it would have been able to had we have had a good night of sleep. So that's just one night. Imagine now 2 months, 3 months, 6 months of poor sleep, how your body's metabolism is going to change and how your body's ability to deal with carbohydrates and sugars and things like that is actually going to change. I had a lovely patient, and she was with an endocrinologist, and he said to her, I can't treat you until you get your sleep right. I can't treat your insulin resistance until you get your sleep right. Go away, fix your sleep, and then come back. It is so important for all of these chronic diseases of the lifestyle, risk and treatment if you already are diagnosed with any of these. We know that poor sleep directly increases the risk of depression, anxiety, and mood disorders. And I think this is a little bit of a vicious circle here, because if you have depression, anxiety, or mood disorders, you're more likely to struggle with sleep. And then if you're struggling with sleep, you're more likely to develop these. So it is tricky. Decreased stress tolerance. I think we all can relate to this. We're more irritable, we're more anxious, we're more snappy when we've had a bad night of sleep. So deep sleep actually neutralizes the stress hormones like cortisol, like adrenaline, like noradrenaline, all of these fight or flight. And without that deep sleep, we're unable to process and neutralize those stress hormones. And then weakened immune system. So we often get sick with poor quality sleep, heightened pain sensitivity, accelerated skin aging. So this is also something that's not necessarily internally related, but more fine lines and wrinkles if you're not sleeping properly. Increased risk of chronic low-grade inflammation, which we've spoken lots and lots about, but that impacts every cell, tissue, and organ in your body and can increase the risk of things like cancer and dementia. We know that there's impaired cognitive function, decreased focus, concentration, productivity, and memory, increased risk of weight gain and obesity, which I'm going to expand on more in another slide, and then decreased lean muscle mass. So that's a big one as well, because the less muscle mass you have, the slower your basal metabolic rate is, the less energy you're burning at rest, and so the problems cascade. So you can see how good sleep has a positive domino effect on every single area of your life, but bad sleep, unfortunately, has the opposite. It really has this negative spiral effect on every single area of your life. So I know Lisa's going to touch on improving some of these, but I just wanted to go through what are some of the most common causes or contributors to poor sleep or to insomnia. So stress and anxiety, definitely. And the reason why stress and anxiety is because it impairs your body's ability to get into that deep sleep. So look at the correlation on your watches and on your sleep trackers and see, are the days when your stress levels are slightly higher than you would like them to be, are those the days that you're struggling to get a good sleep score? Irregular sleep schedule, so going to bed and waking up at different times. I couldn't actually believe when Steph told me he stays up until 3 a.m. reading a million books. That is so bad. So I'm so happy that that's changed. Well done. Long may it last. And then environmental factors, noise, light, temperature, poor sleep hygiene. So too much stimulation before bed, keeping your brain too active and too busy can be problematic. Actual diagnosed sleep disorders, so sleep apnea, insomnia, restless leg syndrome, and something called narcolepsy, which is when you tend to fall asleep during the day uncontrollably. Those can obviously have a massive impact on your sleep quality. Medications and substances, so caffeine and alcohol. And alcohol really is an interesting one. It makes you feel sleepy, in inverted commas, but it prevents your body from getting into that deep, restorative, slow wave sleep. So think about it. If you've had 2-3 glasses of red wine or whatever it is, you might fall asleep instantly. Boom, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're out. But you wake up after having 8.5, 9 hours of sleep the next day, and you still feel exhausted. It's because majority of your sleep would have been that light sleep, which isn't as beneficial. It's not where you're going to get all of the powerful benefits of sleep. Of course, things like injuries and tummy health issues. If you've got a runny tummy, you're not going to sleep as well. Mental health disorders, hormonal changes. So this is one of the biggest concerns I'm seeing at the moment in my perimenopausal and menopausal women, is that those hormonal changes impact your sleep massively. And often the reason for this is because our progesterone levels decline quite steadily as we're going into perimenopause, menopause. And this is an issue because progesterone is the hormone that facilitates good sleep, that facilitates switching off, that facilitates that deep sleep. So as perimenopause and menopause come around, that gap between estrogen and progesterone tends to grow because your estrogen levels fluctuate as you're going into menopause. Progesterone carries on dropping. And oftentimes, I mean, we can do a whole nother webinar on menopause again, but oftentimes women are only given estrogen as HRT and the progesterone is just forgotten about. So they get given this estrogen patch and they think everything's going to get better, but the sleep is still horrific. So we really have to think about progesterone when it comes to sleep in menopause. And then, of course, frequent traveling, jet lag, shift work is going to disrupt your circadian rhythms. Your circadian rhythms doesn't know what time of day it is. It doesn't know, is it dark outside? Is it light? So it can really get thrown off if that routine and that clock is changed. And then electronic devices are probably one of the worst things that we can be on before bed for our sleep. And that's because that blue light really does impact your melatonin production. Okay, so if you're ticking some of these lists and some of these factors, then you've got to really try and work on the sleep. So just to unpack how sleep impacts our weight, I find this so fascinating because I see examples of this on a day-to-day basis. So the reason for this is because poor sleep increases the production of ghrelin, which is our ravenous hunger hormone, and it decreases the production of leptin, which helps us feel full and satisfied after a reasonable portion of food. So I'm sure we've all experienced it. I have, Lisa has, Stafford, we all have. When you're sleep deprived, you are more likely to eat bigger portions, to want to eat more frequently throughout the day, more cravings for refined carbs, sugar, saturated fat, hydrogenated fats. All of these quick releasing energy sources is really what we are going for. And it's because of the imbalance between these two hormones. So when my patients aren't sleeping nicely and when there's no real medical reason or struggle around it, they may be just being a little bit self-sabotagey and they're just staying up too late and staying on Instagram, or they are messing around at night or not prioritizing sleep. It really is self-sabotaging because you can make your life so much easier if you're wanting to lose weight just by getting to bed a little bit earlier, because you'll be doing so much work in the hormonal background that's going to make it so much easier to control those cravings, to stick to your eating plan. So don't stand in your own way when it comes to sleep and weight loss. It's so important to try and just get that extra half an hour or whatever it is, because it's really going to help balance out these hormones, decrease ghrelin, increase leptin, makes a huge difference. And there's been studies done where people are divided into two groups. The one group is forced to get 6 hours of sleep and the other group gets 8 hours of sleep. They're on the same diet, they're eating the same food, the same calories, the same everything. And then after a 6 or 8 week period of that sleep amount, 6 and 8 hours, the 6 hour group ended up losing all of their weight from muscle mass. Obviously, we don't want that. And then the 8 hour group lost all of the weight from fat mass. So sleep almost directs where you're going to lose weight from. Of course, we're not wanting to lose precious muscle mass. I also know, and I see it all the time with using the InBody, that poor sleep increases visceral fat. And that visceral fat is that dangerous fat that wraps around our organs, also increasing the risk for all of those chronic diseases. Of course, when we are sleep deprived, there's decreased motivation and drive to exercise or to meal prep or to make healthy food or to go grocery shopping. So much easier to just order Uber Eats or whatever it is. Got to make sure that sleep is there to fuel your motivation. So as I mentioned, there's a higher chance of losing less body fat and more muscle mass if you are on a weight loss journey with poor sleep. So just really, really important for weight loss. So some tips around nutrition and sleep. sleep impacts what you eat, as we just discussed, and what you eat impacts your sleep. So lots of research has shown that the Mediterranean diet, if followed correctly, has been associated with less insomnia and better sleep durations. So the Mediterranean diet essentially is plant focused. Okay, so 70 to 75% of the Mediterranean diet is made up of plants, loads of colorful fruit, veggies, chickpeas, lentils, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, avo, olive oil. You wanting your plate to be made up of those foods primarily, with the protein component just being just a small little segment. Okay, more fish if you are a meat eater, less red meat. And I'm sure you would have noted, if you are in touch with your body and if you pay attention to these things, red meat is incredibly heavy and it takes a lot longer to break down and a lot longer to digest. And if your body is busy churning through all of this food as you're trying to fall asleep, it's going to be problematic. So we were talking about, if you can't eat early for supper, that definitely is a really, really good piece of advice. If you can get your supper in by 6:30, brilliant. If you can't though, rather avoid heavy red meats, rich, creamy pastas, those sorts of foods that are going to stay in your tummy for longer. So high fat and red meat are the two major things that you're wanting to avoid too close to bedtime, because they take longer for your body to digest and process. Caffeine. This is also a vicious cycle, because so many people are dependent on caffeine because they sleep deprived, but it just does not and cannot make up for a lack of sleep. So I suggest trying to keep your caffeine intake to less than 200 milligrams per day. So to give you an indication of what that equates to, 1 shot of espresso or 1 teaspoon of coffee is roughly equal to 100 milligrams, and then 1 5 roses or standard tea bag, Earl Grey, whatever it is equal to about 50 milligrams of caffeine. So that's 2 cups of coffee or 4 cups of tea. Okay, that's it. Preferably before 11 or 12. And then also making sure that you know your caffeine sensitivity. This is game changing, because then you understand how strict you need to be with caffeine. And that's done in the DNA belly test. It's in the DNA health test. So it's so important to understand what is your response to caffeine, because everybody is completely different. And then, as we've spoken about, alcohol really does impact the quality of your sleep. I think it's important to make sure that you are having several alcohol-free days per week at least. Try not to drink too close to bedtime if you do drink alcohol, but if you are having even just a glass of wine every single night, if it's your de-stressor, if it's your way to calm down, your sleep is going to be impacted, and that's going to have all of those knock-on effects. So make sure, if you really love your wine, you say, okay, 2 nights of the week you can have a glass or 2, and you have it earlier in the evening as opposed to just before bed. And as I mentioned, large, rich, heavy, fatty, red meat-filled meals are going to possibly cause reflux and indigestion, which is going to impact your sleep quality. Sugar and refined carbs are another one that we need to be careful of. So I know chocolate after dinner is so popular and it is so delicious, but we have to remember as well that chocolate does also contain caffeine. So that if you are a slow metabolizer of caffeine, could be problematic. It might be better to have your one little chalky treat after lunch as opposed to after supper, but opting for whole grain, high fiber carbs, which are going to keep your sugar levels more balanced throughout the nighttime. So if you're having something like a white ciabatta roll for supper with steak on it, let's say, I'm just making something up now in the back of my head, but something like that is going to possibly spike your blood sugar levels. And remember, the higher your blood sugar levels spike, the lower they're going to crash down. And sometimes I often see it, that crash tends to happen after midnight, after 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then suddenly you're woken up by a low blood sugar crash. And that's because you maybe ate too many of the wrong types of carbs before bed. So being mindful of blood sugar control, and then experiment with sleep tracking and make it exciting, make it fun, see what affects your sleep and your body day to day, because everybody's different. Another tip is drink most of your fluids earlier in the day to prevent being woken up. This is irritating. If you have a cup of tea right before bed, you're going to wake up. So make sure that you're not one of those people that forget to drink their water and, oh my goodness, it's 8 o'clock, I've only had 1 glass of water, down. That's going to be problematic. And then some of the supplements that I prescribe and I use to improve sleep quality, something that I cannot live without is magnesium. It is my absolute favorite supplement. The two that we opt for are either magnesium glycinate or magnesium L-threonate. So magnesium L-threonate is like the be all and end all when it comes to sleep. The only problem is that it is quite expensive. Glycinate is also brilliant because it does cross the blood-brain barrier and it helps the brain to switch off. So I saw a question in the chat earlier saying, how do you calm the mind down? Magnesium is one of the ways we can. L-theanine, GABA, passion flower, valerian, there's lots of these herbal aids that can help our brains calm down and fall asleep at night and stay asleep. I do recommend getting advice from a healthcare professional. You don't want to be mixing and matching too many supplements, but these are some of the calming aids that can really help. Ashwagandha is another one actually that can also help calm the cortisol response, calm stress levels, and help you fall asleep. B vitamin rich foods during the day are really important because these B vitamin rich foods help to regulate melatonin production, as well as tryptophan rich foods. So tryptophan is an amino acid that is found in foods like yogurt, milk, oats, bananas, dates, poultry, eggs, peanuts. And tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin, which is then the building block for melatonin. So serotonin and melatonin are intricately connected. So for those of you who don't know which is which, serotonin is our happy neurotransmitter. It's involved in antidepressant activity. It's really important for happiness, well-being, contentment, joy, and melatonin is the sleep hormone. So those two very, very closely connected. Tryptophan builds serotonin. Serotonin helps with melatonin production. So all connected. Chamomile tea before bed is something I personally find really, really helps decrease stress levels, switch off the brain, and induce that deep sleep. Obviously not right before bed, so have your supplements for sleep, your chamomile tea before sleep, at least an hour so that you prioritize that sleep routine and winding down, take your supplements, do your meditation, do your deep breathing, whatever it is, try to set aside an hour to calm the brain down. And then Epsom salts with lavender oil can also be really helpful for switching off. And what I've started doing recently, like the last 2 months, is getting one of those essential oil diffusers and having lavender oil or a calming blend in them right by your bed. Yeah, okay, same. And that really does help. So there's lots of studies to show that those essential oils going into your olfactory, your smell senses, help to switch off the brain and help to calm down the brain. So those are just my important tips. I know Lisa's going to speak more about the lifestyle side of things. So I hope that is helpful. And I have worked with sleep a lot. I'm not a sleep doctor, but I see it all the time and I know how important it is for our overall health. So yeah, I'm happy to help people struggling with sleep and try get to the bottom of it.
Sure. Look, just a couple of things, Carly. I wanted to ask you a question. Rooibos tea. You didn't mention, you still talked about chamomile, but rooibos tea?
Rooibos is fine, Steph. It's just chamomile has a particularly beneficial impact on anxiety and stress.
Okay.
So yeah, rooibos is caffeine free, which is great. Any herbal tea is fine, but chamomile is particularly beneficial at switching off.
And then on the DNA side, I mean, you mentioned it here and there sporadically. I would say if there's one thing that you can do to ensure that all this information passes through a lens that is data-driven, specific to who you particularly are, unlike anyone else, is to do DNA sleep, right? So just on...
There isn't a DNA sleep step.
Because
maybe the new core would be a good one.
Okay, so what test would you do from a DNA perspective relative to health?
I mean, actually, probably health. Diet is important because that's where we're looking at circadian rhythms, and maybe resilience as well. Resilience is still a relatively new report, and that's looking at serotonin, it's looking at dopamine, it's looking at a lot of the neurotransmitters that could be linked to sleep. But unfortunately, there isn't one test that's specifically geared towards sleep. They all have genes that are involved in sleep.
Yeah, I mean, there's someone that said, I'm not going to go back in the chat now, that said they did their DNA. They discovered what their circadian rhythms were. They made the change, and that made a world of difference for them. So I think DNA, it's always that, right? So if you could pass through that lens and you apply all of this knowledge, plus the stuff that Lisa's going to share now from a lifestyle and a kind of accessory perspective, I think that's the best way to approach it, right?
Also, if you have got like a food allergy of some kind, your digestive system is going to feel really restless and iffy, trying to digest something that your body's not liking, like whether it's gluten or whether it's dairy products, whether it's something, and then your body's so busy trying to digest and sort out what's going on in the gut that it can't actually relax, and you won't fall asleep properly because your body's busy, So the key is also with regards to DNA and understanding your diet is to try and relax your digestive system so that you've got a happy digestive system so that your body can enjoy fall asleep easier without it being so busy.
Yeah. I know I'm plugging Biogen here, but there's this particular product by them, like this Shore Sleep. I don't know if you guys.
It's the what's in it.
What's in it? So
yes.
this, I never knew this. So you just mentioned this now. I always see this like Shore Sleep, and when I looked at Biogen,
I take it every night of my life.
Yeah, Lisa takes it, and I'm like, yeah, this is a sleep aid. Like this is actually, it's got that passion flower, valerian root, and hops. Is this good, or is this just a supplement that's going to make you dependent?
No, I definitely say it's helpful for sure. Stuff that I just mentioned, that passion flower and valerian root, they are herbs. So just to answer that question on the sleeping pills as well, of course, I'm not a doctor, so I don't prescribe sleeping pills, but I think they prescribed too soon. I think they prescribed as a band-aid. I think they prescribed as a quick fix. And then unfortunately, they are so highly addictive that people struggle to come off of them. I think, unfortunately, you go into a doctor's office, 10 minutes in, out, okay, quickly, here's a script for a sleeping pill. It's not, let's do the hard work. Let's get to the bottom of this problem. Let's get to the root cause of why you aren't sleeping. And let's try some of these lifestyle aspects first. Give it 3 to 6 months. If you're still not sleeping, then maybe we could look at a sleeping pill, but it shouldn't be used as a first line therapy or a first line intervention, in my opinion. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you guys agree with me on that, but it's so dangerous to be on those sleeping pills for so long. And yeah, unfortunately, I do believe they're overprescribed.
Interesting.
So I take that every day, every night of my life. And then this is a product that Biogen launched. It's a CBD oil. So I know that a lot of people use like CBD, good products, good quality extracts to also help fall asleep. So what do you think of that, Carly, like people using CBD?
CBD, I've seen mixed reviews with some people responding really nicely to, and some people not. I would say start with like the magnesium and the valerian and the passion flower first. If you're still not winning, then opt for something else. But it really depends on the individual. I wouldn't just try everything all at once, because then you don't know what's working, what isn't working. So it's got to be looked after. It's got to be monitored, and supplements by themselves aren't going to do the trick. You've got to implement all of these other lifestyle guidelines that we're speaking about to support your body in this getting to a better sleep journey. So popping a pill by itself, it's not enough. You've got to do everything all together. I just saw melatonin as a supplement in the chat here. Melatonin, remember, we've got to understand as a hormone. I'm very nervous of opting for melatonin as a instant quick fix. I would rather do all of those other aspects first, because taking a hormone is going to impact all of the other hormones in your body, and we have to remember that. So it's incredibly powerful. I think melatonin should only be given under the direction of like an endocrinologist, somebody who is incredibly skilled with the balancing of your hormones, and that's why it's been taken off over the counter in South Africa. It's not something you can just go grab and discount. So I would really be careful with melatonin as a first line intervention.
That's a great question. It was actually something that I wrote down to ask you next. Well, Carly, look, we need to from
your hormones, trust me.
I think this is one of those where like I wish we could give Carly like 2 hours, because it's just so much information. And
we'll get on our
yeah. So those of you that asked, yes, we will share this to everyone that signed up in RSVP. We're going to get a WeTransfer link by tomorrow morning. I'll make sure of that, and it will get sent to everyone. And then when you get this, share it with your friends. So take that WeTransfer link, download it, and then share that download, put it on a USB stick, get this out. This is our pro bono. Just get it out. Let's get people healthy. Let's get people informed, enabled, empowered to make proper sleep decisions. Okay, cool. So the floor is yours, and I know you've got, I don't know how you're going to do this.
No, I'm going to do it quite quickly. So, all right. So
Okay.
firstly, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've changed. So just so that you all know, I am very balanced when it comes to all the things that I eat. And I have people here to vouch for me that I am very normal when it comes to food. I do love pizza and I do love beautiful fresh cake and all of those things. But I am also very particular about when I eat these things. I definitely am not going to eat a pizza at 9 o'clock at night unless I am somewhere stranded, there's nothing else besides a pizza shop, and it's that or nothing, and I can't go to bed hungry. So I will eat a pizza on a Friday night, but I will eat a sourdough based pizza that is a little bit pricier than your average crappy takeaway pizza, excuse my language, but you know, there's good quality and there's not so good quality. So I buy the best pizza from a little pizzeria with a very irregular crust. It's sourdough to help my gluten intolerance, and I will make sure that I eat that pizza as early on a Friday night as possible. Like by 6:30, I've had my pizza, okay? And it's not always a whole pizza either. It's like I stop when I'm full, and I would have had a nice crunchy salad with very low carb salad for lunch, because I'm saving all my and an omelette for breakfast, for instance. I'm saving my carbs for my pizza, which I'm going to enjoy with zero guilt, okay? So if you are going to eat something that's a bit more carb heavy or complex, then try not to eat it too late at night, because it is definitely going to interfere with your digestive system, as Carly mentioned, and it's going to cause a bit of bloat, irregular like bowel habits, and then you are going to really struggle to, or your body's going to struggle to let you rest and fall into a deep sleep if your colon is busy. You know, things need to shut down when you sleep, system by system. And if one system, your digestive system, which is a massive one, is really wired and alert and doing its thing, how on earth are you meant to relax and fall asleep on like a cellular level? Okay, so that is something that, I mean, I've cut out red meat a very long time ago because it really affected my sleep badly.
Well, meat.
Red all meats. Yeah, I don't eat any meats, but like years ago when I ate the meat, I would really have an upset tummy. I would struggle to sleep. It would definitely affect my sleep. I'd have a gripey, busy tummy the whole night. I always say, Mom, my tummy's busy. It's busy. Yeah, so for me, red meat or any type of meat at night is a no-go. So I guess a light fish or maybe a vegetarian or vegan meal is a better choice at night than having a meat, which takes a lot longer to digest. It kind of rots and ferments in the gut, to be honest, and it is going to cause some digestive discomfort.
Just by the way, I think you and Carly need to do one on meat and plant-based diet, because whenever we do this, the amount of stuff that comes over the wall and people say, you know, you get this lion diet where it's like raw meat, and like that's the way we ate biologically 100,000 years ago.
A whole webinar on protein.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think the topic should be like, how much protein should we eat in a day? Where do you get protein? Can you really get protein from spinach, like Popeye? Like, you know, there's so many myths and misconceptions. Pea protein, rice protein. I do think it's a topic we need to talk about. Okay, so for instance, for example, me with my food, eat everything, but very particular when I eat things. Okay, then I also, okay, I'm getting too deep into one little line here, but I also never eat carbs on their own. Like, I make sure that when I eat carbohydrates in a high dose like that, I make sure that I always add some good quality fat, like olive oil, avo or something, olives, and preferably some protein. So a protein shake just before a pizza, or maybe a boiled egg or something where there's some protein just before, just after, because otherwise your blood sugar spikes high like that, and then you get these like insulin spikes, and then you crash afterwards, and then you end up craving Smarties or chocolate, because this is what's happening with your blood sugar. Too many carbohydrates with no protein to kind of stabilize it is going to cause havoc to your blood sugar level. So yes, I don't just eat the carbs. I make sure that there's things on the pizza that counteract that, or I eat it before or after to help my body to just break down all that glucose. Or kind of, not break it down, but not affect my blood sugar so badly. Right, alcohol, learned that a long time ago. Lovely to fall asleep tipsy, but boy, oh boy, do you wake up exhausted. You get a regular sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night. So now the only thing I drink before bed, water and tea, rooibos tea, no caffeine, no hot chocolates, none of that, because in a hot chocolate, there is caffeine in hot chocolate. So any type of caffeine for me at night is not allowed. And I also try not to have it too late. So if I have dinner, half an hour later, I'll have a cup of tea, and I try not to have tea or anything like a big mug of anything about 90 minutes or so before bed, because it is going to take a long time to get all the way through to the bladder. And then who can sleep if you've got a full bladder? If you've just had a cup of tea, 90 minutes after falling asleep, you're going to need to go to the loo, and that is going to break your sleep cycle. So try not to have a cup of tea in bed. If you're going to have that cup of tea that you love every night, but you're going to have it much sooner on into the evening and not so late, because it is going to affect your sleep. Okay, then when we sleep, everybody, your room needs to be pitch black. So we hibernate at nights. Okay, it must be dark like winter, cold and dark. Now, in winter in Joburg, we're lucky, right? We don't need to put our air cons on. But the weather starts changing end of August, September, and it gets a little bit uncomfortable in your room. Now, sleeping with a fan on you is obviously not great for your sinuses and that. So ideally, if you are going to sleep with a fan, sleep with it up or away from you. And then it does dry out the air. So please also add a little humidifier to your room. A bowl of water won't quite cut it. You need that steam to be penetrating the air. And so sleep with it, even a cold air humidifier. You get those. They don't have to be hot air humidifiers, which make the room warm. So if you're going to sleep with a fan, just counteract that dryness with a humidifier. Otherwise, you are going to land up most probably with a sinus problem. Okay. So we put the aircon on for at least 8 months, 9 months of a year. Every single night. The room has to be freezing cold. And I put the aircon on at 18 degrees. That is the perfect sleep temperature for a human being. It must be cold, cold, cold. You should be pulling those duvets up, snuggling in, tucking your ears under the blanket and be like, oh, it's cold. That's how we should be falling asleep. Not tossing and turning all night because you're sweating, you want to take a layer off. Now you wake up, your pajamas are sopping wet. Trust me, this will change the way you sleep if you're sleeping in an ice cold room. And you might think this is crazy. I don't want to be cold when I fall asleep, but your body wants to be. You're going to have a better night's sleep if you're hibernating. And no light at all. Sleeping in front of the television, using it as a sleeping aid, which I know some of you are doing, is a no-go because of the blue light affecting all the melatonin and affecting your circadian rhythm. It is a nightmare. So if you are sleeping next to somebody that is watching telly, because this happens, until recently, 2 days ago, we have a very different sleep pattern. So Staff would actually remove himself from the room very kindly and go and sit in the pajama lounge and read on his iPad or watch whatever and leave, because I cannot stand the fact that there's a bright light in my room and I do not want to sleep with these things every day of my life. Okay, these masks are game changers. They're made of fine neoprene. Okay, they're not made of satin or silk or whatever. Fine neoprene. Check that out. They have got built-in like high density foam recess cases like that. Okay, so they are smart sleep masks. They are not the ones you get in the airplane for free when you travel. So you pop them on and they're adjustable. They've got Velcro, and because of the soft neoprene, you don't really feel them. They don't cut into you. They don't make marks on your forehead, and your eyelashes don't touch them, which is so frustrating. So you get these big indents here, so your eyes feel free. You don't get any pressure on your face at all, and they're adjustable. These guys are game changers. So if you are sleeping next to somebody who refuses to leave the room, or you're in an environment like you're on holiday or on an airplane or something like that, these guys are not your average sleep mask. So they're a bit pricier, but they last forever as long as you look after them, and they are so soft and comfortable. Okay, then if you're somebody like me who can't just read every night before I go to bed, I want to watch something. Please entertain me. I do not want to think. I do not want to work. I don't want to be on social media. Just Netflix, do your thing. Okay. Staff often says to me, why did you read something? This is just mind-numbing nonsense. I'm like, I want my mind numb. I do. Just leave me alone. I want to enjoy a nice whatever series. And the other day he said, please watch this series. What was it? That scary one? Oh my gosh. I was 10 minutes into episode 1. I was terrified and I turned the thing off. I'm like, I can't watch this before I go to bed. So I was like totally wound up. So what you watch before you go to bed also matters. It must be something a little bit lighthearted, maybe even humorous, or something that's nice. It's kind. It's romantic. Please don't watch crazy, stressful, thriller type stuff before you go to bed, because it does actually create an anxiety in us. So what you watch before you go to bed also matters. Okay, watch the scary stuff earlier on in the night and the fun stuff, light stuff, just before you go to bed. But if you're like me and you have to watch something, there are these guys. Okay, how cool do I look? Now, these are your sleep spec masks. They're your sleep spec glasses. Now, I wear glasses. Right now, I'm wearing contact lenses. Okay, it's very late for me to be wearing them. My eyes feel a bit tired, but around about 6 p.m., when I shower, I put on my glasses. Now, it's 8 p.m. I want to start winding down for bed, but I want to watch a screen. Now, I don't want that blue light coming in. So what I do, I pop these over my glasses. These are the special ones that go over your glasses. They're huge. And you pop them on, and there's no blue lights that can penetrate my eyeballs. Right now, everything I see is through rose-colored glasses. Everything's fantastic. So you have to get used to it. At first, everything is red, okay? But it's okay. It can be on my phone, and you get very used to watching TV like this and watching your iPads and whatnot. So these are the ones that go over your glasses, and these are your red light emission glasses, and they're very popular overseas. I know the big soccer clubs, big rugby teams, they all wear them on the plane. They wear them to fall asleep, because they have like jet lag, and when you get to the next place that you have to play rugby or soccer in, your sleep is completely out of whack. So they want to fall asleep quickly when they fall asleep. So what these do, they block out the blue light, which kind of fakes that it's nighttime. It's time to go to bed. There's no light anymore. Come on, in old archaic days, when the sun went down, within an hour or so of the sun going down, we went to bed. Had the fire, had the food, went to bed. Okay, the minute it was dark, it was our signal to go to sleep. Now we don't do that anymore. We have TV and we have entertainment and all that. So we stay up till way past our bedtime. And the blue light is stimulating us the whole time. So we have to trick our bodies to pretend that it's dark, to pretend that we're actually starting our beginning stages of sleep. The only way we do that is to take out blue light. So when you do take these off, head on the pillow, out. Within 15 minutes, like Carly said, you're in the state of sleep you need to be in to get good quality rest and recovery and repair. Okay, so these are the ones that are for normal people that don't wear, contact lenses or glasses. So they're just your normal, like Oakley wraparounds. There is no blue light coming in. Alrighty, and then, oh goodness me, that is a disaster there. Then we have these guys, which are the same price, but I've had my prescription put in them. So if I don't feel like wearing my glasses and my other ones on top, these came out afterwards, so I got them. I actually had my prescription put in, which you take to the optometrist, and my prescriptions in. So if I put them on now, because I've got my lenses on, it's very blurry. But if my lenses were out, I could now watch everything with just one pair of glasses, okay, because my prescription is inside. How cool is that? So there are these sleep options, these sleep aids that help the TV addicts, the Netflix people like me, to enjoy Netflix, not feel guilty about the fact that this is my one pleasure of the day, where it's me time, and besides my rebounding hour, for where I can just do whatever I want. I don't have to think about things. I don't have to worry about work. I can just enjoy being entertained. Okay, but if you're going to do it late at night, you have to wear those glasses. Otherwise, you are going to seriously affect your sleep. Okay, end of story. Then in the middle of the night, if Bella wakes us up and we have to go through to the room, she's got one of these in her room. We've got one of these in our room. We do not use our cell phone lights to navigate our way around the room, or to find the bathroom, or to go to her room, or let the dog out, or whatever. Only orange lamps, okay? Because the minute you use a normal blue light, like a normal torch or your cell phone or a little lamp next to the bed, the minute that light hits your eyelid, body's alert, and now you're awake again. Now, to try and fall back asleep into the same deep sleep again, good luck. It's going to take you maybe another 45 minutes to 90 minutes just to get into that deep sleep. So you've just undid all the good. So you have to use an orange light when you are navigating your way in the dark, or if you get up early in the morning or whatever. Just please get yourself a little orange lamp and use these touch lights or a torch, and your children should also be using them. So Bella's been using this since she was born. She does not use a normal blue light in her room, ever. She does not have any blue light in her room. Now, when it comes to light, you need to make sure there are no cell phone lights, no charging cable lights, no TV on power lights, nothing. Street lights coming in, no. Block out curtains, block out blinds, making sure everything's touches in the corner so no light can stream in. Because in summer, especially at 4:30 in the morning, that sun's coming into your room and it's actually waking you up. You don't realize it, but as soon as it's light, you are starting to wake up. Maybe before you're ready, because you only went to bed at 10, you should wake up at 6. Now the light's coming in at 4:30. You think you're only waking up at 6 because that's when your alarm was set, but your body has actually started to wake up already at 4:30. You cannot have any light coming into your room. It needs to be pitch black. And for some people, that's a bit scary at first. So you might want to keep a little touch light, orange touch light in every corner of the room just to light up some spaces. At least it's orange. That's okay. Use the orange lights then to glow the room up and not have any lights coming in from the passage, from the street, from your kid's bedroom next door, from the TV. Please, people, this is very important. Cold, dark from now on. Okay. What you wear when you sleep is also important. So light bamboo type of pajamas. Keep yourself cool. You should not be tossing and turning and throwing off blankets and sweating and feeling uncomfortable. As little as possible. Maybe not naked, but you could. My parents, okay, I shouldn't say that, still sleep naked. But it's okay. That's what it is. It's to our horror. It's one of those things. But otherwise, a small nightie or thin bamboo long sleeve pajamas if you have to in winter. But breathable, natural fabrics. Nothing with polyester that makes you feel hot and clammy and sweaty. So please. Right, then let's move on to the bed. I wonder if I had to do a show of hands, which I won't be so mean, how many of you actually changed your bed in the last couple of years after a decade of sleeping in it? Most people would say, nope. I got my bed from my in-laws as a gift from them, a hand-me-down, or I'm using the same bed that I've been using since, I was in varsity, or my first house ever, and I'm now in my 5th house and I'm 60. No, you spend a third of your life in your bed, but you'll replace your car every 5 years, but you won't replace your bed. And our sleep space is important. The blankets, the duvets, the sheets, the pillowcases need to be good quality, the best that you can afford, bamboo, breathable, all of that, okay? And your pillows, like I've got a Temper pillow here. This is one example of that pillow. These are knee spaces, okay? If you don't like your knees touching in the middle of the night and you don't want to wedge another pillow between your knees, those are knee spaces. If you need to elevate your feet because you have bad circulation, you can get these. So you must go through to a sleep shop, like a Venkasa type of shop, and go and ask them, because there's a pillow for people that sleep on their sides. There's a pillow for somebody that sleeps on their front, which you shouldn't do. Sleeping on your side is best. There's pillows for every type of human being with every type of preference, hard, soft, middle, Goldilocks. Go and get yourself a good pillow. Now you're talking $1.5 to $2 grand. That is what you should be paying for a good pillow. Make sure that you wash it. Make sure you wash the covers. Invest in what you're sleeping on. For your neck's sake, your skin's sake, everything. You're going to get a much better night's sleep if your pillow is super comfortable and you're not tossing and turning and, my neck, and something's wrong. So sleep on a good pillow and also on a good bed. Please, everybody, replace your bed every 10 years. Go into the sleep shop. You can pay these things off now these days, interest-free, and invest in a bed that makes you feel comfortable. Light, medium, heavy, Goldilocks, you choose, and you won't be sorry. You shouldn't get pain in your body ever, or bad circulation, or a leg that goes dead in the middle of the night, or a sore back because your bed's too hard. This should not happen. This is your sacred place where your body rests, recovers, and restores. It's where your muscles are built. It's where your brain detoxes. It should not be underestimated. So please go and get yourself a new bed in the next year. Okay, make that commitment. Okay, I've spoken to you a little bit about sleep aids. Like I also take GABA every night. I take magnesium. I take Sure Sleep every night of my life. I use my little steamer as well. Okay, and I put some little drops in. So I put lavender inside. I've got also one called Breathe. So this time of year, I just add a little bit of Breathe. So it's like euthanasia. It helps with nasal congestion, chest. So that is something that I do for Bella and myself. And then just a few things, a few tools. I would like you to please post these links inside the chat and on the website. So it was 2 years ago. There's a guy that I used to go and see for some massage and some hypnotherapy here in Joburg. but it's because I believe in hypnotherapy. So this isn't hypnotism, this is hypnotherapy. And I've had probably about 50 sessions in my whole life, which have gotten me through some really tough times and traumatic episodes in my life. And I've been hypnotized by a professional, okay, in a seat, and we go through it, and she records the entire session, 20 minutes, half an hour, and I get to take that recording, pop it onto my iPod, my MP3 player, and listen to that over and over every single night to help me to fall asleep, to get through some tough times, because as you're sleeping, your subconscious is actually still listening. How amazing is that? That's like ticking 2 boxes at once, eh? So I went back to this amazing guy, Warren, in Joburg, and I asked him after my sessions with him, please could he record 3 that I could then give to my clients that were a bit more generic. So he did 3 for me, one, and they're all about 20 minutes long. So beautiful music, which we chose together. He used his very tranquil voice, beautiful affirmations, meditation, bringing your heart rate down, relaxing every muscle. It is so amazing. The one is for creativity and resilience. So if you feel like you just need to, you're feeling dull, you're feeling like burnt out, your creative juices aren't flowing, and you feel like you just need to be a bit more resilient. There's one about creativity and resilience. There's another one on anxiety release if you're feeling super anxious, and it's affecting every aspect of your life. And there's another one which is for relaxation. That's really nice for helping you to fall asleep if falling asleep is your issue. So total body relax. There's 3 of them on the e-store. They're 100 Rand each. You can go and download them, pop them onto your app, your Apple Music or whatever, and you can pop them into your ears, and just whenever you're feeling super anxious, you can do it on the plane, when you're on the couch, when you're trying to fall asleep. Go lie outside on the bench or a hammock and just go and just do some mindful meditation. There's also some really cool apps that are really big. One's called Calm, one's called Headspace. There's one called the Mindfulness app. And there's a new one that I want to go into in quite a lot of detail. In fact, the physio that I've been seeing for my calf and shoulder and whatnot is big into it. And we're going to unpack it on a future podcast. And it's called the tapping solution. And it's massive. And it's the whole sort of ethos is around something called EFT. So not electronic funds transfer. It is emotional freedom technique. So the fact that our bodies and our cells hold on to every single bit of trauma that we've ever been through. And I am a huge believer in that. And through science, they can prove that everything that we think about, we bring about on a cellular level in our health. Okay, our body tells us what's going on emotionally and mentally, always. And they say that things like cancer can come from guilt and resentment. And anyway, we can go into it. So they use this whole emotional freedom technique, and it's a tapping technique. And they teach you on this app how to release emotions so that your body can be free of this tension, stress, and trauma that cell is holding on to. How amazing. So yes, that app is called the Tapping Solution, and it is changing lives around the world. It's major at the moment. And then the last thing that I did do for years about a year, is I tracked my sleep. This helped me so much. I've had a Fitbit since they launched in our country more than a decade ago. And my first sort of stint with it was I want to track my sleep. And I would go to the app and I would look at, how long does it take me to fall asleep? Oh my gosh, I'm waking up, I'm tossing, I'm turning, there's something wrong. So it tells you so much about your sleep and the quality of sleep. So it's not always about quantity, but also about quality. Are you getting restful sleep? And you can't just guess that. Okay, yes, you can wake up feeling amazing, but you could always improve your sleep, right? Very few people sleep perfectly. Like my dad, who has a nap for 20 minutes every day of his life. For 20 minutes, he puts his head down, he doesn't set an alarm, he wakes up 20 minutes later, guaranteed. And he goes to bed and wakes up the next morning without an alarm. He has always been so good at sleeping. And this tracking your sleep can help you to develop good habits, and also to take the science and the data to look in and see what is going on. Why am I taking so long to fall asleep? Why am I so restless throughout the night? So that you can maybe have your DNA done, maybe make some changes to your diet and start to get better quality, deeper sleep. So those are some of the things that I do. The notepad thing I spoke to you about already, that I get it all out before I sleep. I vomit it out on paper. Here's my notepad. Okay, and it goes everywhere, in every handbag, next to my bed, everywhere. Because if I'm thinking it must go down, because I cannot be trusted to remember it all. And I won't relax if I have to think about it all day or all night long. And then exercise. That is probably my number one. If you had to ask me, how do you maintain your sleep hygiene and routine? I need to feel tired at the end of the night, physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted. So exercise helps to obviously reduce that tension, anxiety, and stress, adrenaline. And for me, if I don't exercise, I really struggle to relax and to fall asleep. So please just look at exercise as maybe the low-hanging fruit. Start exercising and get rid of that adrenaline, and I promise you'll be able to fall asleep a lot easier. So those are some of the things that I have got around me to show you. I hope that was a little bit helpful. I know I had to squeeze a lot into a short space of time, but maybe after tonight, you will have some insights into why we need to sleep better, where the links are with health, diet, weight loss, weight gain, where can you start, and some of the easy things, the easy hacks that you can invest in that could make a huge difference to your sleep quality. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to tell you all, if there's one person that can't handle bad sleep, it's Lisa.
Yeah.
Lisa is,
unplayable.
When I see you've slept 5 hours, 6 hours, I stay away from you. I just that next day I don't make eye contact. I think
one night, but give me 2 bad nights or 3 bad nights in a row, and I want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay,
terrible.
cool. Time. We've slightly over time, but I see most of you stayed on. Really appreciate it. Just stuff to announce. I think today, all of you, if you haven't seen, we announced Bounty Glow. So that's out. That's for rebounding, a program world first for people in a demographic that's late 50s, 60s. So
even late 40s, eh?
Yeah, even I think
so
Sylvia actually said to me, 25-year-olds will find this program hard if they get to the advanced phase. So take a look at Bounty Glow. This will be sent to you via WeTransfer, so you can share it and download it. It will be available again, like I said, on the e-store also. So thank you for spending your evening with us. Thank you for Biogen. A lot of the sleep products that you pick up, you're like Sure Sleep, and a lot of them are in the Biogen range. So pop into your discount store and you'll get those there. Hopefully that was useful, everyone. Go have a good night's rest.
Yes, sorry I kept you up so late. Sleep in a bit tomorrow. Get your 8 hours.
Night, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Carly. Bye, everyone.